Hey, Riding Side Saddle listeners, we're back. It's Tammy.
And Lisa.
And Catherine.
Catherine. I was just going to say, I didn't interrupt you this time in the introduction because I get so excited.
Yeah.
So then I paused so long that you're like, okay, Catherine's
I guess
here.
I'm going to say it.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yay, thanks for coming back.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's not your first time.
It's not your first rodeo, girl.
No, ma'am.
So
Back in the saddle, are you?
that's right. You should see the looks, the knowing looks that are happening in the Jeep tonight.
Yeah.
Back in the saddle. Yes, indeedy.
I've ridden with you ladies quite a few times.
Yeah.
Most recently at the beginning of season 2.
Yes.
We had a phenomenal time. You hosted us in Green Bay for the weekend. We got fantastic photos taken. Had so much fun with you and Steve, and then we sat and we did a number of episodes that really were focused around intuition.
Yes.
Right? Following your intuition and kind of getting past some of the hurdles and the challenges that can prevent you from really moving into
Following the
that.
signy signs.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
things that get
And
in your way.
believing.
That's right.
Yeah, believing in your own intuition and your knowing.
Absolutely. So we had already started conversations at that time to say, so listen, I don't know exactly when or exactly how, but we really would like to have you come back.
Aww.
And you're so gracious to accept that and accept that invitation. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Tonight, we are going to be chatting about fear. And honestly, it feels a little bit like it's very connected to some of the conversations we had in season 2.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Because fear really prevents you oftentimes from following those signs and intuition. So we wanted to kind of dive into that, navigating fear and what do you, let's talk about it. What do you do to really overcome that, navigate through it? It's going to happen.
Right. Well, we all have fear. And I mean, I think that's the big point is most of us think that other people are limiting us and they don't realize that that I'm not feeling safe within myself. And so I have fear of rejection. I have fear of not being good enough. Being judged.
Yeah.
And so these are the factors that, that we get ourselves in as, I might be abandoned. My friends might not like me.
Right.
My family may not know who I am if I start coming out and, having different beliefs than them. Or society in general. What are we doing with with our fear? And so we a lot of times just assimilate, and we want these are great lessons that we learn when we're children. Of if something chases you, run. That's a fear response. That's really fabulous. It's a great one. And what do we do? Okay, that one makes sense, but we still go into fear mode when we are different from someone, or when we feel like we're going to be judged by someone, or we don't feel like we're enough or worthy.
Or we know we need to make a change in some area, but we're afraid of what that might look like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It comes into every factor
It
of your
does.
life.
It does.
It does.
One of the things that you mentioned, Catherine, before was in your notes, that fear, it is not always a bad thing.
It's not.
Right? Fear gets you up and going to work every day because you're afraid that you'll lose your housing if you don't.
Right.
Right? That's not bad.
Right.
No.
Right. That's pretty realistic.
It is realistic, I think, because we live in a society that's the traditional common expectation. I just through, I guess, some learning that I've done recently, you're right. Everybody has fear. There's a normal amount of fear. It's also very connected with ego, right? Because ego, the responsibility of ego, people, oftentimes I hear people like ego bad, right? And I don't necessarily think it's all bad. There's a level of ego that is there to keep you safe.
Correct.
And by doing that, right, by keeping you safe, ego uses fear.
Yes.
Now, what is the appropriate balanced amount of that, right, to keep you safe but not to hinder you from
Right,
being
from growing.
right, from coming into the person that you're meant to be. There, right?
It's a tricky balance.
Yes,
It is.
absolutely.
Yeah, it is. And you know, so many times we reject ourselves before we've even tried. We're so afraid of failing or looking like a failure that we don't go that different direction that our heart is saying, hey, try this. Hey, have you thought of this? You know, and using the gifts that we've been given to be different, we kind of just stay in the normal flow of things so that we don't
it's
have to deal
safer.
with that.
So much.
Yeah.
So much.
Right.
It's
crippling.
It is crippling. It's why it took us so long to even start writing Side Saddle,
Absolutely.
honestly, because it's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but, and this, and maybe not this, and what are people going to think, and, right? Like,
Right. And
know,
we came
all
up
of
with
that
all sorts
happening.
of roadblocks to put in our own way, including we don't have the equipment and we don't
Right.
necessarily have the funds to get, you know, really good equipment. Well, so now we're just with an iPhone and a car in a Jeep.
Right.
I think it's fabulous. I love being in the Jeep. Let me tell you, this is a perk. If you haven't been in the back
It
of
is
the
comfy.
Jeep, I mean,
Right.
wow.
Right. Then you haven't been.
You just haven't
You
been.
haven't
It's
lived.
not too shabby.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But it's, you know, it's important. And a lot of times we don't know how to get past it.
Right.
It's easier to see other people in fear and in crisis
yeah.
because sometimes we're not even conscious that we are in a pattern of fear. So until we can actually address it and see it within ourselves and go, gosh, why am I procrastinating? Catherine, writing your own book because, you know, because of fear.
I really want to.
I know
Right.
it's needed. I know it's guided. I know it's coming. However, there's fear in the response. There's fear in possible judgment. So we can see it so easily in other people, but we really have to get clear in where in my own behavior patterns am I allowing fear to come into my daily life? And that can show up in so many ways. You know, like perfectionism.
Yeah.
You know,
Bing, bing, bing.
it has to be
Lisa raises
perfect.
her hand.
It has to be perfect, or I can't do it. And
Which then leads to procrastination.
Right. And then we reject ourselves. We don't take the risk. We don't take the risk. We automatically veto ourselves, and we're like, put a stamp of veto on there of that's not possible.
Well, and that goes along the lines of ego again, though, because you can logic and justify the fuck out of everything that you're afraid of, right? Well, it
Yes.
doesn't make sense to do this. That would be foolish. That's too risky. Like, here are all of the reasons why it is not logical
Yes.
to make that move.
Yes.
And then you're like, you know what? I'm just being smart. I'm just being logical. I'm just being safe. And that is a rationalization oftentimes just of
Well, it's a
simple
good
fear.
crutch, right? It's a good
well,
crutch.
it sounds great.
Right.
Right. Who's going to disagree with you? Yes, that's logical.
But is that what your heart wants?
That.
Is where is your heart in this whole process? And you know, when we don't make a decision, that is a decision. And so many people don't realize that they are being held in indecision by themselves. And so, you know, then you're like, gosh, I've been in indecision with this for 10 years.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
I really want, but
Right.
Yeah.
it-
the
I
but.
really wish.
We think we should be
but-
able to control everything, and since we
Yeah.
can't, you have to trust. You know, we have to take a step, you know, and trust. God, can I do that without having it perfect? Can I do that without having control? Can I do that without all of the things that I think I need
Right.
in order to make a decision in a different direction?
Right. Scott and I have recently had this come to fruition for us very, very in our face. We had a decision to make. It is a level of a risky decision about, you know, kind of what direction our future is going to take. And there are no safety nets, right?
Nope.
There are no what ifs. If this if we can't make this happen, we're going to fail, right? There are no safeties around it. And we had to really work through a lot of fear, like a couple of good months of going back and forth to continue to move forward with this particular decision and do it. And we did. Mm-hmm. And like 3 weeks later, I'm still shitting myself a little bit. Like I still am navigating through fear, even though the decision's been made.
But but let's talk. You used the word fail, that you will fail.
Yeah.
But really, will you really fail, or will you have made a decision or a choice that will be a catalyst for a different decision and choice that would be a catalyst for a different decision and choice? I think that's really what life is all about.
It absolutely is. I think I know I've read recently, I just don't remember where, that sometimes when the universe doesn't give you what you think, the direction you're trying to go, it's actually it's like a little detour, right? Like this isn't quite the path, but let's navigate you around that, right? To get to where you're supposed to be.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You've never been sent on a detour.
Right.
My whole life has been a detour, probably for the last 14 months.
Exactly.
And so I have to laugh. You both know this. So,
yeah.
But
absolutely.
But each decision, if I looked at myself as a failure because I made this step and I made this step, that's what society is doing to us. It's creating this fear. But if we could embrace this as I made a decision, it's an opportunity, that didn't pan out.
We'll just see where it goes.
This didn't pan out.
Right.
I'm going to let go. I'm going to go in the flow and then allow. That creates a whole different energy than when we sit there and go, we are going to fail. Because regardless of what your situation is, Lisa, with what you and your husband did, there's always another decision later could be made that would take you in a different direction.
100%.
So there is no failure. There's only the lack of fruition of what your current vision is.
And all of that, 100%, when I'm in my very best place and I get up and I'm like, yep, we can do this.
Got the big girl panties on.
Right.
And then it starts to creep.
Yeah.
But I recognize and I know that as much as I allow that to creep in, I am setting myself into that path. Like, the more nervous I get about a decision that we've already made, like this,
it's a done deal.
We're already done.
Yeah.
And if I sit here and continue to be like, oh my gosh, was that the right decision? This could still happen, and this could still happen. I'm kind of creating
those
that.
things.
Yeah.
So the aspect of, okay, so, maybe this won't work out exactly the way I had planned it. Maybe. I mean, that's possible. I hope it does. But, it's possible that it doesn't. Mm-hmm. To your point, Catherine, that doesn't mean that that's the end. Like, you failed.
Right.
It means, okay, well, now what options are available to us?
Or could it be even better? Something even better could happen.
Thank you, universe.
You didn't even see it coming, and the universe put you here on this path and then diverted you around to even something better than what you could imagine.
Wink.
Right.
Because
that was a fine dream.
Yeah.
But we have something better in store
There's
for
more.
You.
Right.
Yes, there's more.
Ooh, I'm
But
feeling
there's
so
more.
much better.
Behind door number 3.
Can we just sit in the Jeep? Let's just sit in the Jeep all day
There you go.
And just go through all of Lisa's fears and tell me why they're just not founded.
Well,
I saw-
but it's steeped in beliefs. It's steeped in other people's beliefs. Is that your mother? Is that your father?
Yes.
Is that the church? Is that the society? Is that politics? Is that whatever? Wherever these have crept in from, wherever they came from in the past, is that really truly your belief?
Right.
Or is that something that's been placed on you?
Right.
And so when we are in fear, it's really important to sit and go, is this really my fear?
Right. Where's that coming from?
Or where's that coming from?
Where's it founded?
That's a really good piece of advice.
Well, I mean, because that's how you build a really good foundation, is to ask, when any time a fear comes in, is that mine? Or was it something that was placed on me in in a well-meaning way.
Right.
We want to keep you safe when you were little,
Right.
but it doesn't apply now.
Right.
And so do I need to continue to carry this fear with me, or could I just like put it down and say, I don't agree with that anymore. I'm not going to fail. I just have been given an opportunity.
Yeah. I don't even need that anymore. Right.
Right.
I don't even need to hold
It's
on
not
to the
serving you
possibility of
anymore.
failing.
Right. Right.
I think it's sometimes, for myself anyway, when I start to feel, the little fingers of fear creeping in.
Yeeks.
Right. It doesn't feel good.
Right.
It is. So I need to make this decision. Mm-hmm. And I'm making this decision because I want to get to this other place. So I'm in this place in my life. I'm in place A, and I want to get over to place B, but I can't get there because I've got the, fear is,
Right.
tickling the back of my neck. It is, oftentimes I have to think, but the life that I really want that's in place B. Mm-hmm. Do I want to stay in place A? How does that feel? And I sit in that for a minute. How does it feel to stay where you are, where you don't want to be?
Right.
You're done with where you are.
It's pretty ick.
It is, right? Right.
It's worse than
But
the
what you
fingers
want is
sometimes.
right over there, right? And all you have to do is go and get it.
Well-
So if I get there and that doesn't feel good, I'll make another decision and I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the forever decision. Just because you make a decision doesn't mean you have to stick with it now for the rest of your life. You get to make a new decision tomorrow.
Right. Or the same day.
Or yes, absolutely. For sure. I saw this meme the other day. It was something like, I heard that you attract the things you're afraid of. So I've decided I'm afraid of $42.5 million.
I love that. That is so awesome.
So scary.
Right.
Eek. Right. Well, but we put so much pressure on ourselves.
don't we?
And it has to be perfect. And it goes back to,
Yeah.
but that's not really who we are either. Remember as children, we'd stand up, we'd toddle around, we'd, fall over, whatever.
That's how you learn.
And that was okay. It was acceptable.
Yeah.
But what we accept now of ourselves is so harsh, and we put so much pressure on ourselves that we actually suffocate joy and happiness sometimes out of our
Agree.
own life. And if we
1,000% agree.
and
we-
potential.
right, and be
Right.
vulnerable, just say, gosh, this is really what I want. you
Right,
know?
right.
And just put it out there.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, if the universe isn't trying to divert you, you can attain that, or
Yes.
you can move into a different space or a different place that you can be happier in.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to get stuck in a should when you are talking yourself out of something, though.
Right.
Don't should all over yourself, Tammy.
Exactly. Don't.
It's one of
Should
my-
is a dirty word.
It is.
It
I
really
think we
is.
should eliminate that word.
I agree.
I really do. And, I think a lot of times and I'm not the only person, because I know I've spent a lot of time recalculating this year as my GPS system likes to tell me.
GPS.
Recalculating
the route.
Right.
Bitch, you gone the wrong way.
You are lost. And I
When
don't.
it starts saying make a U-turn at the
Right.
next available opportunity,
Right,
make a
right.
U-turn.
And you're recalculating. I find the best thing to do is to go, and we get ourselves confused and lost, and we don't know what we want. So sometimes we do know what we want and we're afraid. And sometimes we don't know what we want because fear has shut us down.
Yeah.
Just getting quiet and going into those spaces and allowing ourselves to just listen to our heart, because so often we're disconnected because we're cerebral, and then of course our heart is just saying,
Whispering.
Bitch, you're going the wrong way.
I'm down here and you're not listening.
I pump every second for you. Fucking listen to me.
This is how you thank me.
I keep you alive every day, and you still won't drive the car the right way. So, I mean, but, and then, once we make a decision, I heard this, and we have our arguments for, for emotional intelligence. I heard this speaker one time say, if you have a disagreement with your partner or a friend or whomever, and you're like, I don't agree with that. I think we should go this direction. And then they say, nope, I want to go this direction. And you've given everything you have to the conversation, and they're like, nope, I think still we're going to go with this. You have two decisions. You can just disagree and not go at all, or you can say, okay, let's try that. And then once you're at that point, trust that decision. Do you know, you may not be the direction you wanted to go initially, but, you go, okay, I'm going to trust this and go forward. And a lot of times what we do is we've had that discussion with our brain, this friend that's in our body that has been like, no. But then our heart finally has said, but I really want this.
Right.
I really, really want this. And so we've had this disagreement. But once the decision's made, then you have to just trust and not go back and go, I told you so.
Right.
Because
this is going to fail.
This
Just let me tell you.
Because so many times, who wants to be on a project with anyone like that, or who wants to be in a relationship with anything like that? And there are a lot of times, and we make concessions with other people, and we're okay with it.
Yeah.
But when we're in a battle with ourselves, and we have that, we don't make that concession. We go, it's like the hokey pokey. We put one foot in, we take one foot out, and we don't allow, just once the decision's made, it's made.
Right.
Go forward.
Right.
Move. Just
do something.
Accelerate.
Right.
Do not stay in that space of not being able to, agree.
Right. I think that there is, because we do live in a very physical world, right? Money is a real thing, like it or not, it is.
Yeah, time
you
is a
need
real
it,
thing.
absolutely.
Right.
You need these things in order to have shelter and
Yes.
clothing and food and all of the things that you actually need. I think it is, this is where I get stuck, in making sure those things are covered while still following my heart, who's over there whispering, recalculate. Right? But the recalculating, that's scary. Right? It is, because I can't see how all of these things that I need to survive as a human, I can't see how they're going to be covered. Or even if it's a smaller decision. My husband and I were talking about, let's take a vacation. Like, a big vacation. Our 5th anniversary is coming up. Let's go somewhere nice next year. And he said, well, I'm worried about this, which could, impact our finances. And what happens when that happens? And then we've spent this chunk of money to go somewhere really nice. And then, we maybe are going to need that later on, because we don't know what's going to happen with this. When he said it, to me, it was all fear-based, right? But I get what he's saying. We have these needs as humans that need to be covered. And if we are he did not use the word wasteful, but if we choose to use a chunk of money to do something that we don't need, are we going to be regretful because then our situation changes and now we don't have enough money to cover all of, the things we do actually need?
But that, I think, is exactly what you're saying.
Right. But that's the stumbling block right.
But once you've made the choice,
I
you
agree.
have to be in. So if you did make this choice to go on your 5-year anniversary trip, then that's it. We don't talk about that anymore.
That's
we
how I
shouldn't
feel.
have felt, right? We shouldn't have done it because now look at us.
Yes. That's how I feel. And
that's not part of it.
I agree. So my response to Josh was, we can always make more money. Well, we should wait until, we're closer to retirement. Listen, I'm 6, almost 7 years older than he is. So my retirement date is much sooner than his is, which means I'm going to have to wait for you to retire, which means I may be too old to travel if I'm here at all.
Right.
Right? I don't want to wait, because it's like that old saying, don't save your good perfume for special occasions or your good dishes or whatever it is. If you don't use the stuff while you can, pretty soon they've gone bad, or there are no special enough occasions to use those fun things or beautiful things or whatever.
And literally anything can happen.
Anything
right?
can happen.
That one thing
We'll
that you're
make more
concerned
money
about,
another day.
Something can trump that, and something can
Absolutely.
trump that.
Right. But
And
I
what
think
do you
we
do?
use that to keep us safe, because he's worried about, want to make sure that all of our needs are covered. Well, they are covered.
Right.
But what if someday they're not? Well, then we'll just stay small and sit at home and look at each other all day, because now we can't ever go anywhere or do anything if we're going to allow that sort of mentality to dictate
It rules your
our
life.
whole our whole lives, right?
And then if you don't go on the trip, then you'll have how much regret that we should have done this when we were
Yes.
younger.
Yes.
And why would we
Right.
not do it if you can afford it currently?
Right.
And you're just concerned about circumstances in the future. Circumstances change every day.
Every day.
It does.
And something different might come in, and there might be an abundance that comes your way that you don't know is coming.
For sure.
Why not take the time now? So once
Right.
that decision's made, and that's kind of what I was talking about, don't look back on it. Just
Right.
the decision's made, and I'm going to trust that the universe, and
Sure.
change that perspective of, and this is exactly what we're meant to be right now.
Right.
And just change
I
that perspective
totally
instead
agree.
of looking back.
I totally agree with you. Getting somebody else to be on board with that
I agree.
is not always easy.
It isn't.
Yeah, there's that that mentality shift of I can't think of the word, but lack mentality.
Right.
That aspect to say
That'll
there's,
keep you real stuck.
there's never enough for someone to feel safe enough sometimes.
Right. Right.
Well, I think a lot of people from the Depression era lived their entire lives that way.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, probably a lot of them died with regrets of not traveling or not, whatever they
Right.
Right.
of not doing things in their
Right.
life that they would have really, really liked to have done with their life.
Right.
And I guess it has to get to the point where, when I have a big birthday coming up, and when I look back on my year, what do I regret? And will I regret not doing the things that are in my heart right now on my deathbed?
Right.
I hopefully have another 30 years in me, but another 40 maybe, I don't know. But really that goes by. I'm on the other side of that.
Right.
So that goes by so
Gosh.
fast. So what do you fear of not living or fear of the little things? I don't know.
Right.
You got to really get clear on those and decide where your priorities and where your perspective really lie.
For sure.
Because you can always argue for your limitation. Always.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
and
it's
it's so
just-
easy to stay in that limitation.
Yeah.
It's the safest place.
It
It's
is
the
safe.
logical place, right? That's why it's so
Yeah.
easy to kind of hide behind that and be like, I'm just being really smart about this. These are all of the logical reasons why I should not do that.
Right.
But that's AKA fear.
It is.
Right? So I mentioned this this opportunity that Scott and I had taken advantage of, and one of the things that we were leveraging, I guess, as we were navigating through the last couple of months of uncertainty is, well, let's just keep going until we get a no.
Excellent.
Right? This is the universe. The universe has kind of given us this opportunity. It has been giving us signs this whole time. Let's just take one step, right? What's it going to hurt to take one step? And if we get a no, then that's it.
Right.
But if we get a yes, then we can take one more step. And that just continued to happen, right?
So you
And-
didn't have to make the whole big decision all at once.
Right.
You made one
It was-
small decision that led to another small decision.
That's right.
And then at the end of those line of small decisions, you've made a big decision.
It's really huge, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is really huge. And we just kept going.
Right.
Like, okay, so if the universe did not want us to do this, right, there would be pretty clear indicators. And in fact, there were pretty clear indicators that we should keep going, right? Like checking in and listening for the signs and literally all of the obstacles falling out of the way, right? It wasn't a like, I'm going to scratch and claw and I'm going to control this and twist and manipulate everything that I can do. It was like, holy fuck, that just happened.
Right.
Like, I guess that isn't a no. I guess we're going forward.
Still a green light.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to approach, because so many people try to make it happen.
Yeah, which I always do too. So I recognize now the
Don't
difference.
tell me no.
Right.
I'll tell you.
Right. And the door slams. And you're
Right.
like, oh,
Right.
you know.
Fine, I'll go in the window.
I'm going to dig a motherfucking hole into the basement.
Yeah, that's probably the opposite of what Catherine is saying.
Right. That is not what we did.
And then there's the Jack Nicholson face that comes through the door.
Oh no.
I'm back.
But but a lot of times, I mean, and when navigating through fear, a lot of times when people are trying to do that and they're clawing their way through, I'm gonna make the holidays happen. Everybody's gonna be happy. Gosh darn it, and they're gonna like it.
Right.
And we're gonna do all of this. And I think if people realized, setting that intention with, I want my family to be happy in this season, and then letting go of expectations, and we don't have to have this tradition, we don't have to have this and this, and just allowing, I think people would see that fear is what makes us try to hold on with such control and controlling all of that, and any situation actually. But if you would just let go and kind of almost even just float, what's going to come to us? It's going to make us happy. Oh, we got tickets for this show.
Right.
Oh, this came up. This came up. Why don't we look at this differently and have Chinese for something, for one of the holidays?
Instead of the stress and expense of
all
the
other
shoulds.
Oh, right.
We
the
always
shoulds.
do this. We have to do it.
Right.
And it makes you more excited that way,
Right.
because it's kind of a little surprise. Like, oh, well, this just came in. Like,
Right.
that's kind of cool.
And that's fun. It's different. Well, and makes you a little happier. And
It does. Because you don't have to work so hard on top of it.
Right.
And then it makes your family want to be around you more,
Right.
And,
Instead of barking orders.
and make everybody want to be
Yes.
together. So, I think sometimes when we can look at, you have to really realize where fear is coming in. It's like you said, it's so easy to see in someone else.
Yeah.
But we don't realize when we are actually creating fear within our own lives. And our fear is, I need to make the holidays look like Martha Stewart, was here and present and made this meal and whatever. And then we end up like biting everyone's head off when they come in, because they don't appreciate
Merry
all that I've
effing
done.
Christmas.
Right. Do you know what I've just done to make all this happen?
I've been up since 4 a.m. and you ungrateful SOBs.
Right? Right?
Couldn't even be here on time, and now the turkey's dried out.
But
Got the fucking pie.
that's fear. But that's fear that we're just releasing,
Right.
because we had this expectation that it had to be perfect, it had to look a certain way or be a certain way. And when we just really relax into it, it can be something totally different.
It can be. What I find very interesting is, you had mentioned it before, Catherine, like the people around you, right? Maybe is it your fear, or is it something that was taught to you? Perhaps, just in your social environment, in your family. It is a really hard shackle
It is.
to unlock when the people that you love the most and respect and are around all kind of have the same type of mentality around fear, right? That lack mentality, the risk, the risk aspect of
when
things
you're risk
in life.
averse. Yeah.
That's the word, averse. Thank you. And that is what you have known your whole life, and the people that are going to watch you make a change like this and be like, oh, what in the flying fuck are you doing?
Their fear.
Right.
Yeah, you have to take on their fear
Right.
too.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, right, you go forward in this, okay, universe, you keep saying yes. You keep saying yes. If you keep saying yes, then I'm going to have to tell all of these people what decision I've just made. And that's just as scary.
They're going to freak out.
And that's And that's just as scary because then I
Yes.
think I'm going to be judged.
Absolutely. Right.
Like,
Well, you have to get really comfortable with being okay with other people's opinions.
You
of
do.
you. And you have to realize
that's hard.
That's on
That's a
them.
big
when they're people
shackle.
that you care about and respect.
yes,
Yeah.
that's a big shackle to try to unlock. It's
And
hard.
that's the whole, goes back to the whole fear of abandonment.
It does.
And
Yeah.
when we
And
can
judgment,
allow
yeah.
ourselves to be abandoned completely, then, wow, we become the people that we were meant to be.
Yeah.
In the first place. I mean, I remember when I first decided to file for divorce after 28 years, buy an old fixer-up farmhouse that nobody else would purchase. I mean, nobody. I think my kids thought I was having a midlife crisis because they came out to the house and they were like, "Oh my God, Mom,
What
did
have
you
you
do?
done?
oh my
Right.
God." But every sign just came in.
Said, do
Yes.
it, do it, do it.
Do it.
Yes.
And so exactly what you said earlier, you take one step and you take one step and you just keep praying and saying, what's my next step? And the door opens and you walk through it.
You're like, okay.
And everybody thought I was crazy. I mean, my own kids thought I was crazy. And I know that, but my whole life has changed exponentially and allowed me to become more of who I am by saying, no, thank you. I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be that professional medical practice manager anymore. I don't want to be, the city person. I like it in the country with my farmhouse. I don't want to be, in this relationship that doesn't fully allow me to be all that I am. And so when I can remove myself from all of that and I can allow myself to say with complete freedom, think about me what you want, but I'm going to be outside on the land and I'm going to be enjoying the property. And then I got a shitload of to-do lists in my house, but
I'm going to be in my bivvy
But it's
overalls,
mine.
digging in and planting some hostas.
and planting and
Some ditch lilies.
That's right. And it's just so funny how people just came in to help me. I didn't know how to do this. This person showed up. I didn't know how I was going to handle this. Even the siding on my house blew off in a storm one day, and the furnace went out that day, and lines froze.
Oh.
And I remember sitting in the living room thinking, "Oh my God.
What have I done?
What in the world?" I mean, it was like negative 32 degrees outside.
gosh.
And I just had to remember, this is divinely planned. I'm okay. I'm not going to go into that fear mode.
Right.
And so what I did was I called the heating company. Guy came out right away and was able to fix it. I think it was like $72.
Oh,
and he came
gosh.
out. It was a Packer weekend, and I was like, "Holy crap!" And he
Of course,
showed
it's
up,
a weekend.
and it was a
Right.
small fix.
Yeah.
But it was a 20-year-old furnace, so I was like,
Yeah.
just terrified.
Yeah.
Tell me I
Yep.
need a new one.
And then I
Right.
got upstairs and pulled up, some of the floorboards and got my hair dryer out and started warming up the
frozen
pipe.
Yeah.
And got it running again. So I made sure I had it dripping just a little
Yeah,
bit so
yeah.
that didn't happen
Yeah.
again until I could get, some insulation in there. And then I called my insurance company, and lo and behold, they couldn't replace the old siding. And so because they couldn't replace what had been there, the policy said that they would replace all of it.
The whole darn thing.
So,
Thanks, universe.
$28,000 that I did not think I was
gosh.
going to ever be able to replace.
Yeah.
It
just showed up.
showed up.
Yeah.
But I trusted in each moment, even though the fear was so incredible. Single woman.
Right.
What am I going to do in this farmhouse? And all of this just showed up for me when I just decided I'm not going to live in fear. I can't live and be locked down by this because, I spent the last 10 years in my marriage of, just being in that place of fear. I don't have any living relatives. What am I going to do? I'm going to just jump out into the abyss. I mean, this is crazy.
Right.
Why am I wanting to do this? Why does my heart keep saying recalculate? But and it's funny now, but these are things that we get locked in really tight.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when we can really trust trust and we can really go into that space, we can recognize, oh, I'm in fear. And we can somehow still be able to breathe deeply into our body and open to the universe and ask for help. And with the expectation it's going to come in, it does. Mm-hmm. It does. And it may not come in the way we expect it to. I'll tell you,
It's always a surprise.
I never thought my siding. I mean, I thought I was going to get 2 or 3 pieces of siding put back on.
Right.
You know, it never comes in the way you expect it. But I've always been more pleasantly surprised by it comes in better than I ever expected.
Right.
The universe is always conspiring on your behalf.
It is,
Right.
and if we can just get out of our own way and quit being locked so tight, and you know,
In the should.
I see my guardian angel like ripping its hair out, like, oh my God, here we go. I thought we did this already. Like, stop. Just,
Right.
you're getting in your own way. You're creating your own future. Like, stop doing it. Like, we did this. Don't you remember last time? You did so well.
Right.
Somebody recently said, and we were talking specifically about like fear, and navigating that, like, you know, you can walk on a sidewalk, right? And it's what, 3-4 feet wide, whatever it is. And because it's like on the ground, you have no concerns as to whether or not you're going to fall off, right? You just walk. Now, when you have opportunities in front of you, the analogy is like raising that sidewalk up 1,000 feet, right? And suddenly then it feels like a lot more scary. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot harder. What if this happens? What if that happens? And really, it's the same activity. It is the same width. You're going to take your strides one step at a time, and you're going to do it the exact same way as if it were the sidewalk that were on the ground, right? Like, nothing has changed. Do it in the exact same way, and everything's going to be fine. Like, let the fear go. You know how to do this.
Right. When I was working with the Andean medicine men that have been a part of my life for quite a while, and we were walking up a mountain in Peru, and we were at Asangate, and I kept being worried because I've had 4 knee surgeries that, you know, I might slip, I might fall, you know, it's rocky, it's whatever. And I remember, you know, Tito, one of my teachers, telling me, Pachamama will always hold you. And so I you know, and he'd look at me and he goes, sometimes on your ass, but Pachamama's going to hold you.
You're not going through.
You know?
That's fine, just not on my knees.
Right. You know, so he would say sometimes you might have to get down and crawl, actually, you know, kind of on your hands. But she was always going to hold you. And so, you know, it's really, the universe is always going to hold us. And so if we can, so now when I'm doing things, and, you know, Steve and I'll be climbing different trails, and we'll be climbing different mountains and doing more than I ever thought I could at this age with these knees. You know, and in my mind, I'm thinking, Pachamama will hold me.
Yeah.
You know, which is equivalent to the universe has got you.
Right.
You know, quit fighting.
Right.
And I think that's what we do, is we just fight so hard for those limitations and those old
Well,
beliefs.
we like the safety net.
Yeah.
And if
But is there really a
reaching-
safety net?
There isn't.
Right.
There really
Right.
isn't. But if
Right.
we're reaching and we can't,
Perceived.
and we can't see the safety net that we think we currently have, then, you know, that just feels too unsafe. It's too much of a stretch.
But it's perspective.
It is perspective.
And
And,
if we-
again, it's what, like, there's nothing wrong with being in the place that you're in. If that's where you want to be,
Absolutely.
this feels just exactly right to me. This
Resonates with me.
Yes,
Feeling
absolutely.
good about it.
My heart is not yearning for more. I come home every day and I love my space and I love my life. There's nothing wrong with not changing that.
Absolutely. How wonderful.
For sure. But when you get those heart yearnings, the recalculating.
Recalculate.
Yes.
The more.
The more.
I don't want to die without doing this.
Yes.
Those are really important
They are.
ones.
You know, we call it the bucket list.
Yeah.
If you don't have a bucket list, that's totally fine. But if you do have one and you're not reaching for any of the things on that list because you're looking for that safety net in order to do a little reaching, then that's where the work comes in. Right?
And the trust and perspective.
I was just going to say that.
It's just a shift. It's shift in your perspective. Your perspective, looking at fear as an opportunity, and how can I change that dynamic?
Right. Where does it? So the steps are: where is this fear coming from?
Yeah. Is it
Why?
mine?
Right. Why is it driving this bus? What comes after that?
Is it necessary?
Yeah. So like is this an egocentric aspect that is truly keeping me safe, or a perception of keeping me safe?
Yeah.
Right.
Is it valid? I mean,
Right.
if I rob this bank, I'm going to go to jail. That's valid.
pretty valid.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
valid.
it's pretty valid.
But my other made up in my mind, my made up things, are they true?
Right.
And
Right.
oftentimes they're not.
Right.
And if
if I just make this one decision and see what happens?
I
right?
fail, quote unquote fail,
Yeah.
then I have the opportunity for another decision, and
Right.
another decision, and another decision.
Right.
So it's not holding ourselves so tight around failure. It's allowing ourselves growth and a potential for something even more than what we thought we wanted.
Right. Keep going until you have a no.
Right.
Make the call. Set up an appointment.
Keep rolling.
Keep going until this is not where I'm meant to be.
Right.
Yeah.
And change that perspective.
Right. And it will be scary.
Yeah.
So you can't even, just base it all on feeling, right?
But once you face it, the fear gets less and less. Can I just tell you, after that day when I had the 3 things happen in my house and thought I was like,
That's
oh my
it?
God,
Yeah.
it was huge. I'm done. Right.
Right.
But once I resigned myself to that, and I was like, okay, is there fear? Yes. One step, next step, and move through it. And now I look at that, and anytime anything comes up now, I'm like, I'm not as afraid.
Well, shit, if I can get through all that, I can certainly do this, right? That's all perception,
I can plant
perspective
49
too.
hostas in a day.
Right. Well, there you go. I can, right.
I got out of a snowstorm
Right.
without frostbite. I can plant 49 hostas in the spring.
Yeah. And I guess it is really perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it scary in that moment? Well, sure, I suppose it's scary. But what else have you done in your lifetime here that far supersedes anything that you're trying to manage through?
Well, you're
now?
not giving yourself credit for.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
oftentimes we don't give ourselves credit for half of the things we've done.
Exactly.
We all kept in this car, we've all kept our children alive and, somewhat safe,
Sure.
over their years.
I didn't eat them sometimes like animals, and I can see why.
Right?
I see why they do it, but I didn't.
But we did a good job. Just, despite all of the fear that was put into our heads of this could go wrong, this could go wrong.
Yes.
It didn't.
Right.
Life doesn't want to really go wrong for us. It just wants us to take steps to
have a life,
Right.
Right? Create
to
a life.
see how far you can go, honestly.
Yeah.
without any regrets.
Without regrets.
So it's either live with regret or make friends with fear.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a big one.
Yeah.
That is a big one. So as you just said that, like 3 opportunities flashed in front of my head. 4 that I stopped myself. I'm not big enough to do that.
Right.
I don't have enough of a safety net to reach for that.
Right.
But do you know how many people that are less qualified than us are doing things that they are less
All of the time.
I say that
all the
every
time.
day.
All the
I think.
time.
I'm like, how in the fuck did that person be able to do that? Like,
And it's because
wow.
they've moved through their fear.
That.
And they have no fear of
Or
it.
they just didn't have any fear. They didn't
Right.
even have to move through it. They were
Right.
just like, yeah, that looks good. I'm going over there.
I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that about, like, when you're working within a large organization.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not talking about individuals specifically, but when you get inside a large organization and you see, like, how things happen, you're like, oh my God, like, how is this functioning, much less profitable, right? When the inner workings are, like, like this. And that's more like what I'm trying to say, as opposed to a particular person and judging that person, but more like, okay, so this is working and it's profitable. And I see how rinky tinky it is on the inside. Like, that tells me that I could probably take this
do this better.
Like, I can do whatever it is in my mind, and I could actually be successful, because it probably wouldn't be as rinky tinky and, one Jenga
Rubber
piece.
bands and paper clips.
Right.
You're such a one.
I know.
If that's a mess and that
True and
works,
true.
I could make it better and it would work even better.
But the point is that, like, I
Yeah.
don't have to be so fearful then.
Right.
Because
The
holy
people
shit,
over here in this
there's
paper
like
clips and suspenders,
bubblegum
they're
and
doing-
magic happening here.
Right.
And they're super successful. Like, I don't...
then I can do it too.
Right.
Or I
Yeah.
can do anything that I really want to do.
Yes.
Right.
Whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like getting past that fear, like, okay, like that's gonna like explode any minute now.
I see this train wreck
probably
happening.
do this, right.
Right.
And it would be halfway successful.
Or all the way
all the way.
successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that was a one thing too. So. Oh yeah.
Fear.
There's a lot of it, and a lot of people have it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good things you can do with it.
There are.
Yeah.
I really love the just keep going till you get a no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that fear is an opportunity. And I think perspective
is.
on that, people don't hear that enough. They don't realize that fear is an opportunity.
Ooh, I'm so excited. I'm
Yeah.
so afraid. I'm so excited to be afraid. Not really, but
Right.
oftentimes they do go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
Excitement and fear, they do go hand in hand. And it's a matter of, what's the balance? Do you have more excitement than fear? Then you're probably still going okay,
Right.
right? Like,
Are the doors opening? Then you're probably okay.
Right.
Keep walking through them.
right. Whew.
Woo.
Thank you.
No, thank you for having me.
We always love having you.
I know.
Oh, thanks. I love
So
being
much
here.
fun. Three girlfriends sitting in a Jeep,
That's right.
solving our own problems.
And everybody
not.
else's.
That's right. The whole world, we've got you covered. Don't worry.
Right.
No, very sincerely, Catherine, thank you for joining us tonight.
yeah, thank you.
I will be tapping on you again sometime soon, if you are ever interested in coming and chatting with us in the Jeep again.
Absolutely.
We always appreciate like the perspective and,
Absolutely.
just the soulfulness of what you bring. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for
I
having me.
know I have listened to some of our previous episodes with you, and they just happen to pop up exactly when I need them.
Oh, good.
So yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Well, I hope this
Soul
pops
nourishing.
up. Hope this pops up for everybody out there.
Yes,
Somebody
right.
can get a little tidbit here and there.
Yeah.
And we can recognize fear so well in other people, but let's just sit with our own fear
You're
and
right.
and get
Yep.
comfortable with it, and just realize it's really nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Wow, a lot to think about. But in the meantime, we'll wrap this up. Todd, thank you at Mind Garden Media for being our editor and mentor and guider and very, 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 very silent partner.
Always supporting us, though.
Absolutely. Thank you for your hard work and always putting our podcast together. Wouldn't be a thing without Todd.
That's right.
So if you're thinking about doing a podcast yourself, reach out to Mind Garden Media. They've got all sorts of good advice and tools to help you get started if that's where you're headed. Don't be afraid. Just
Don't be
call
afraid.
Todd.
Just do it.
Right.
Just do it.
Right. Just do it.
Do that thing.
Right. If you're looking for
Recalculate.
us, recalculate. If you're looking for us, we are on Facebook and Instagram, Riding Side Saddle, the podcast.
We're all over.
You can find our, right. You can also find our podcast on Spotify and YouTube,
YouTube,
for sure. Really, every place I think that you can get your podcast except for Apple, because we haven't figured that piece out. But we are going to do that. And
We're recalculating
yes,
there.
we are. Yes. We'll get to it eventually.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.